The first thing they told me before entering the throne chamber was simple: do not look at her. The second thing they told me was more detailed, involving a holographic presentation, 3 historical execution clips, and a polite reminder that humans were still considered probationary allies. The third thing was just a medic checking whether my stress levels were survivable. I nodded through all of it, and then I walked in and looked at her. The chamber floated in open orbit above the gas giant like a crown forged from light. Gravity here was selectively obedient. Each step felt gently guided, as if the floor itself preferred grace. At the far end, elevated by a subtle distortion of space-time, she sat. She looked human. That was the most unsettling part. 2 eyes, 2 hands, the symmetry of a woman carved from elegance and restraint. But her ears, long, refined, tapering past her jaw, shifted slightly as she observed the court. Threads of crystalline circuitry hung from them like living jewelry, pulsing faintly with neural light. They weren't ornaments. They were extensions of her. The chamber quieted when I stopped walking. Protocol dictated I lower my gaze to the luminous floor. My implant gently vibrated, reminding me of that rule in 14 languages. I considered obedience. Instead, I met her eyes. The silence was immediate and thick enough to tax as a material. A guard to my left tightened his grip on a plasma halberd. Somewhere behind me, a diplomatic aide whispered what I suspect was a prayer, but may have been a resignation letter. She rose, space seemed to adjust around her, not dramatically, just enough to clarify hierarchy. "You dare look at me?" she asked. Her voice carried no strain. It didn't need to. The question alone had the weight of centuries. Now this would have been the appropriate moment for fear. Unfortunately, my brain chose honesty instead. "Yes," I said, "because you're beautiful." Time malfunctioned. I am not exaggerating. The translation drones hovering near the ceiling froze mid-pulse. One of them rotated slowly as if buffering reality. My implant flickered and displayed error, cultural context undefined. The guard's halberd hummed louder. A court minister made a soft, choking sound. Her ears twitched, not dramatically, just once. The crystalline strands along their length brightened, then dimmed as if recalculating. "You misunderstand our laws," she said. "I probably do," I admitted. They gave me a 97-page briefing. I read most of it. A ripple moved through the court. It might have been outrage. It might have been someone suppressing a laugh. It's hard to tell with alien dignitaries. "In this empire," she continued, descending 1 step from the distortion field, prolonged eye contact with a sovereign signals challenge. "I'm not challenging you." Her gaze sharpened. "Then what are you doing?" "Appreciating symmetry," I said. "Also, bravery. It takes confidence to look that composed while floating above a planet that could swallow moons." That was true. The gas giant below us churned in violet storms, visible through the translucent architecture. Lightning arced silently across clouds the size of continents. She studied me, searching for mockery. I didn't offer any, just sincerity, possibly reckless sincerity, but sincerity nonetheless. "You risk execution," she said. "Yes," I agreed. "But statistically speaking, this is still the best first impression I've ever made." A faint sound escaped someone near the back. Definitely laughter this time, very brief, immediately stifled. Her ears shifted again, slower. "Curious, you do not fear me?" she asked. "I do," I said. "Quite a lot. My heart rate is impressive right now. If you have biometric access, I recommend not checking." For a fraction of a second, the corner of her mouth almost moved. Almost. "Fear," she said, "is the appropriate response." "Maybe," I replied, "but it's not the only one." The crystalline threads along her ears pulsed brighter, responding to neural activity. I wondered if they translated emotion or amplified it, or both. "You claim you look because I am beautiful," she said carefully, as though dissecting a volatile concept. "Define beautiful." This was either a philosophical trap or the strangest flirting scenario in galactic history. "Balanced," I said. "Intentional, powerful without trying to prove it, and alive in a way that changes the room." The court went very still. She did not look away. In her culture, this was escalation. In mine, it was conversation. "You are aware," she said, voice quieter now, "that in our biology, sustained mutual gaze can initiate bonding protocols." My implant attempted to translate bonding protocols and instead displayed, "Do not panic." "I am aware," I said carefully, "though I suspect our species interpret bonding differently." "And what?" she asked, stepping fully off the distortion field so that gravity treated us equally. "Does your species interpret it as?" Choice, I said. Another silence followed, not suffocating this time, focused. Around us, the throne chamber seemed to recalibrate. The hovering drones resumed subtle motion. The guards did not lower their weapons, but they no longer advanced. You were instructed not to look at me, she said. Yes. And you chose otherwise. Yes. Her ears angled slightly forward, crystalline threads glowing with a softer frequency. You are either profoundly foolish, she said, or unusually honest. I've been called both, I replied, sometimes in the same meeting. That did it. A small, unmistakable exhale left her. Not quite laughter, not quite restraint. The court shifted, uncertain whether to prepare for execution or celebration. She regarded me for several long seconds more. Then, in a voice that carried through the chamber without strain, she said, "Leave us." Gasps, actual gasps, the guards hesitated. "Now," she added. One by one, officials, soldiers, drones, and hovering translators withdrew, the massive doors sealing with a low, harmonic hum. Suddenly, the vast chamber felt intimate. She stood a few paces from me, no throne, no distortion field, no audience. "You have disrupted protocol," she said. "I'm starting to sense that." "And yet," she continued, studying me with an intensity no longer purely regal, "you have not challenged me." "No, nor have you submitted." I shook my head, her ears tilted slightly, light traveling through their crystalline strands like distant stars. "Explain that," she said. I held her gaze. "Maybe," I answered quietly. "I'm not here to do either." The doors sealed with a harmonic resonance that vibrated through my ribs. For the first time since arriving in orbit, there were no witnesses. No guards, no diplomats. No translation drones pretending not to eavesdrop. Just her. The gravity subtly recalibrated again, equalizing us completely. I tried not to interpret that as symbolic. It felt symbolic. "You are not here to challenge," she repeated, walking a slow circle around me, not predatory, analytical, nor to submit. "That's generally how cooperation works," I said, "at least on the better days." Her long ears shifted with each step, crystalline filaments along their edges glowing in faint pulses. I was starting to suspect they reacted to emotional fluctuations, which meant she was currently fluctuating. "In this empire," she said, "hierarchy defines stability. Every interaction carries vector and magnitude, dominance, yielding, advancement." "On Earth," I replied, "we mostly carry coffee." She paused mid-step. "Coffee. Stimulant, mildly addictive, encourages social bonding and questionable decisions." She considered that with unsettling seriousness. "You are under its influence now." "Tragically, no." A flicker of something passed across her expression. Amusement. Confusion, both seemed possible. "You claim equality," she continued, returning to stand in front of me. "Yet you entered my chamber as a representative of a lesser civilization." "That's a harsh but statistically arguable phrasing," I said. "We did almost destroy ourselves several times. And yet you look at me as though we stand on identical ground." "We do," I said. "Gravity confirmed it." She glanced at the floor, then back at me. If alien royalty could roll their eyes, she came very close. "You manipulate language," she observed. "I survive with it." Her crystalline filaments brightened briefly. "Your biosigns indicate elevated heart rate, mild adrenaline saturation, and suppressed fear response." "Suppressed?" "Yes, humans typically display avoidance behaviors under existential threat. You are maintaining ocular contact." "Maybe I'm stubborn. Or reckless. That too." She moved closer, not invading, testing. "In our species," she said quietly, "direct gaze stimulates the neural lattice within our auricular extensions." She touched one of her long ears lightly. The crystals shimmered in response. "It accelerates cognitive emotional synchronization." "That sounds intimate." "It is not casual. Neither was that throne room," I said. A faint pulse of light traveled from the base of her ear to its tip. I was definitely influencing something. "You disrupted more than protocol," she said. "You disrupted expectation. Good disruption or catastrophic disruption. That remains under analysis." Somewhere above us, unseen mechanisms adjusted orbit. The palace thrummed gently as it compensated for atmospheric turbulence below. The gas giant's storms flashed faint violet reflections across her skin. "You understand," she said, "that members of my court now speculate you attempted a dominance ritual. By complimenting you. In our culture, admiration during a challenge can signal intent to bond after conquest." I blinked, That seems like skipping several emotional steps. It is efficient. Humans prefer inefficient chaos, I said. We build entire industries around it. Her lips pressed together, definitely amusement this time. You risk destabilizing diplomatic negotiations, she said. There are factions who already distrust your species. There are factions on Earth who distrust yours, I replied. We're consistent like that. She stopped pacing. Her gaze sharpened again, but not with anger, with curiosity sharpened by intelligence. You do not seem intimidated by the possibility of execution. I am, I said honestly. But fear doesn't improve honesty, and I think honesty is the only thing that might work here. And why, she asked, do you assume honesty would succeed where deference would not? Because you looked bored during the formal proceedings. That caught her, her ears angled forward slightly. Explain. Everyone in that room avoided your eyes, spoke rehearsed praise, calculated their words like they were diffusing explosives. You didn't look powerful, you looked isolated. Silence not hostile, heavy. You presume much, she said at last. I observe, I corrected gently. The crystalline threads along her ears glowed in a slower rhythm now, less erratic, more aligned. You believe I am isolated, she said. I think leadership can be, I answered, especially when no one dares to look at you. Her breathing shifted, subtle but measurable. If I could see it, she absolutely could. In our biology, she said carefully, mutual gaze can also stabilize neural variants during stress. That sounds healthier than constant intimidation. You interpret our structure as intimidation. You interpret ours as chaos. A beat, that is accurate, she admitted. For the first time, the space between us felt less like a standoff and more like negotiation without weapons. You said you are not here to challenge, she said. I'm not. Nor to submit. No, then what is your function? I considered the training manual, the diplomatic briefings, the warnings, then I answered without them. To see you, I said. Her crystalline filaments flared softly, then dimmed. To see me, she repeated. As you are, I clarified, not as a projection, not as a symbol, not as a threat. And if what you see destabilizes you? I'll deal with it, I said. Humans are adaptable. It's one of our better traits. And if what you see destabilizes me? I hesitated. That, I said carefully, would be new territory for both of us. She stepped closer again, close enough now that I could see the fine lattice of light beneath her skin responding to neural impulses. Close enough that the air between us felt charged, not electrically, but biologically. You understand, she said softly, that if I maintain this level of ocular engagement, the court will interpret it as intentional bonding. I assumed that was already trending, I replied. A faint sound escaped her. Definitely laughter this time, quiet, unpracticed. You are dangerously unafraid, she said. No, I answered. I'm choosing not to look away. Her gaze held mine, seconds stretched. No throne, no guards, no hierarchy. Just two species standing in orbit above a storm. Your species, she said at last, is unpredictable. Frequently. And yet, she continued, crystalline threads now glowing in steady synchrony. You have not once attempted to dominate this interaction. I don't need to, I said. Why? Because you're still here. Another long silence. Then quietly, almost to herself, she said, so are you. By the time the doors reopened, the Empire had already decided what our silence meant. Rumors travel faster than light when assisted by quantum relays and bored aristocrats. 3 ministers stood waiting beyond the threshold, flanked by guards who looked as though they hoped to witness either an execution or an engagement announcement. Possibly both. She did not resume the distortion field of her throne. Instead, she walked forward beside me, not ahead, beside. The reaction was subtle but seismic. I heard it in the slight hitch of synchronized armor plates. Saw it in the way crystalline data tablets flickered as officials recalculated political trajectories. One minister cleared his throat. Your Radiance, we detected extended ocular convergence. That sounds medical, I muttered. She did not look at me, but one of her ears angled slightly in my direction. It was intentional, she said calmly. Shock rippled outward. A rival noble, tall and narrow-faced, stepped forward. Intentional convergence implies hierarchical challenge, or evolution, she interrupted. The word hung there, unfamiliar in their language when applied to custom rather than biology. The noble's ears stiffened. The human destabilizes precedent. He questions it, she corrected. All eyes turned to me. I resisted the urge to wave. I meant no destabilization, I said evenly. I meant acknowledgement. Murmurs spread like static. The noble's gaze locked onto mine, sharp and aggressive. Then hold my gaze, human. Ah, there it was, a public challenge, reclaim dominance, restore order. 6 months ago, I would have dropped my eyes instantly. 2 hours ago, I might have hesitated. Now I met his stare calmly, not as defiance, not as submission, just presence. His crystalline ear filaments flared erratically. He had expected tension, aggression, a push. Instead, there was nothing to push against. After 4 seconds, his biosignature spiked. After 6, his breathing faltered. After 8, he looked away. A guard caught him discreetly before he fully lost composure. I blinked. Is he okay? What? He will recover, she said almost gently. The court had gone utterly still. She stepped forward then, not onto her throne, but onto the same level as every official present. For generations, she said, her voice amplified through the chamber's resonance field, we have equated gaze with dominance. We have mistaken visibility for threat. Her long ears shimmered, crystalline strands glowing with steady coherence. Today, she continued, a human looked at me without conquest and without surrender. He did not fracture under pressure. He did not seek to rise above me. He remained. I swallowed. That sounded far more heroic than it felt. We face an era, she said, where alliance with humanity determines survival probabilities against outer rim hostilities. Yet we cling to rituals that equate connection with combat. She turned slightly enough that her gaze found mine again, and I find I no longer wish to. The chamber hummed as the orbital palace adjusted its broadcast frequency. This was no longer private. Colonies were watching now. Military commanders, trade sectors, billions of citizens. The rival noble steadied himself. If gaze no longer signals challenge, what defines hierarchy? Choice, she said, a collective intake of breath. Hierarchy will be defined by responsibility, she continued, not intimidation. Mutual gaze will no longer mandate dominance protocols. It will signify consent to engagement. A minister whispered, cultural reform cannot be instantaneous. It can begin, she replied. Silence. Then, unexpectedly, one of the elder advisors lowered his eyes, not in submission but in thought. This change, he said slowly, originates from human influence. It originates, she corrected, from observation. She looked at me again. For the first time since entering this empire, I didn't feel like a reckless envoy gambling with survival. I felt steady, the fear was still there, but it no longer controlled my posture. I stepped forward slightly, not to take attention, just to speak clearly. My species makes mistakes, I said. We have built systems around fear too. Around dominance, around proving worth by overpowering others. It hasn't worked out well for us. A faint ripple of restrained humor moved through the court. They had read our history. But we've also learned, I continued, that cooperation only works when neither side feels erased. She watched me, crystalline filaments glowing in soft synchronization. I did not look at your sovereign to conquer her, I said. I looked because I refused to pretend she was untouchable. A pause, and because she's beautiful, I added. There it was, that almost smile again. This time she didn't suppress it. A visible shift passed through the chamber. Tension dissolved not with collapse but recalibration. The rival noble straightened fully. And what becomes of this convergence? She considered that openly. It becomes precedent, she said. Her hand lifted slightly, not commanding, not claiming, offering. I hesitated only long enough to understand the weight of the moment. Then I took it. The crystalline threads along her ears flared once, then settled into a calm, steady glow. No overload, no dominant surge, just alignment. The palace's AI voice resonated softly overhead. Neural variants stabilized, synchronization within safe thresholds. I looked up, good to know. A few officials actually laughed this time. Beyond the translucent walls, the gas giant's storm systems continued their endless turbulence. But inside the chamber, something fundamental had shifted. Not hierarchy erased. Not power dismantled, but fear reduced. She turned to address her court once more. Humanity will remain under alliance review, she said, but no longer under probation. That was as close to a diplomatic miracle as I was likely to witness in my lifetime. As officials dispersed, recalculating policy instead of punishment, she remained beside me. You have altered more than a rule, she said quietly. You did that, I replied, her ears angled slightly. You chose not to look away. I was tired of doing that, I admitted. And it was true, tired of shrinking in rooms built for giants, tired of mistaking reverence for respect. Tired of assuming survival required invisibility, she regarded me thoughtfully. "You are different from when you entered." "So are you," I said. A faint curve touched her lips, not restrained now, real. "Perhaps," she said, "this is how evolution begins." Outside, lightning traced violet veins across the planet below. Inside, we stood on equal ground, not because gravity demanded it, because we chose it.